Hello everyone and welcome to rural Germany. It's been a while, but I'm glad to be back and I hope that you enjoyed this video. In today's video we are going to focus on farming, so we're going to create a few farm fields and build 2 farms as well. For the rest we're also going to do some forest stuff, which includes building a parking lot in the middle of a forest, which could be used to start hikes from. That originally was a woodcutting site, but more about that later. For now we start building the first farm. This farm is one of the 2 farms on the northeast side of Weissenburg, and of the 2 farms this is the more old traditional farm. The barn looks pretty old, the house isn't that modern either, and they don't have a lot of modern machines. Still, that doesn't make it a bad farm. There's a lot of competition between this farm and the second farm, which will be a little bit more modern, but in the end the land of this farm is more fertile and the other farmer doesn't really like that. But more about that later in the video. Here we are starting on the first farm field that is owned by the farm that we just made, and this is also that fertile farm field that the second farmer is jealous of. It is uncertain though if this farm field is going to last for long, because SV Grünweiß, the sporting complex that we made a few episodes ago, has shown interest in a part of this farm field because their clubhouse is pretty old and they would want to make a bigger one, and they want to realize that together with another football field on a big part of the farming field that we are building right now. To make it even more complicated, there is another third party that wants to claim this farm field, which is a rich person from the city that wants to build a holiday resort, camping-ish thing, because Weissenburg is a pretty touristic town, but there isn't really a big bungalow complex or camping site anywhere near. So far the local council refused to give permission for both the projects, because a lot of people in the council are afraid that allowing people to build on this farm field will lead to even more projects on farm fields, and at the end there would be no farm field left, which would transform Weissenburg in a city instead of the rural town as it is right now. According to them, it would be okay if the bungalow park would be built further away from the town itself, but that is all plans for the future. So, to end this story, for now, this farm is safe of losing its best land to some company, but we don't know for how long that is going to last. For now, I hope you can enjoy the little time lapse of us finishing the farm field, and I'll be right back. Alright, it's time to continue with some forest work. The forests on the east side of Weissenburg have been used for woodcutting for a really long time, and at some point it became that bad that the government decided to make it illegal to do any woodcutting in these forests. Not just illegal for the individual, but also illegal for the large companies, which caused the cargo station, built a few episodes ago, that was used for the wood transport to abandon, and it caused for most of the forests to grow back to their original state. For SV Grünweiß, it is a little bit of a pity, because now they have to argue a lot to get some land from the farm field that we just built, and otherwise they just would have cut some trees. but obviously that is now not legal anymore. Over here we are building the earlier mentioned unpaved parking spot in the middle of the forest. The road that you see over here was the edge of the forest back before the ban on cutting forests came through, and everything to the right and at the bottom of your screen had already been cut down. This place over here was the newest cutting site, and right after they started cutting down the first trees, the government came through and banned the forest cutting. But instead of replanting the forest over here as well, they decided to keep this as a parking lot, or at least just a unpaved place where you could technically park, because nobody really maintains it, so it's not really a high-class parking or anything. Before we continue with the farms, it's time to do some intersection marking tool work. Alright, so here we start on the second farm of today's episode, and as I also mentioned earlier, this is a more modern farm. It also has a richer owner, so it has more budget for new machines and everything, and by using these machines they try to rival the other farm who just has the more fertile land. I really tried to show this in my build. For example, the area in front of the farm is made of asphalt, and for the first farm we made, I added dirt to the ground, which shows that that first farm just has a lot less money to, I would almost say, fix their farm. I will also place more and more modern machines in front of the farm to really show the difference in budget and the way they approach the farming. The farm field that we're making here is pretty new and is also owned by the modern farmer. The interesting thing about this farm field is that even though there was a law that prevented people from cutting down the trees and transforming it into farmland, by bribing the local council, the farmer still got permission to do so. You also see that on the right side of the farm field I also leave a little place where you can see that they just cut down those trees, but they haven't transformed it into farmland yet. That sounds pretty controversial, but it gets even worse. The entire farm has technically been built on illegal land. Originally, this farmer had a similar farm to the first farm on the other side of the main road, but he wanted to make a new one. There was one issue. He wanted to have a nice view on the rest of the valley, so he decided he wanted to build the farm where it is right now, with a nice view on the town. Okay, it's not really higher than the rest of the town, but you at least have a clear view and not just surrounded by forests. The problem is that the only way they could do so is by cutting down some trees of the forest. Again, with a lot of bribing, he managed to get permission, but still, it is a little controversial, if you ask me. The farm field that we're building over here is still owned by the modern farm, but the situation is a little bit more difficult for the farm field that is still empty and that we're going to fill in after this one. For the past 3 years, there's been a huge discussion whether the farm belongs to the modern farm or the farm that we built first in this episode. Originally, it was part of the first farm, but once the modern farm was built on this side of the main road, the farmer also wanted more land on this side of the main road. So he did some research, and according to really old documents, the huge farm field that we just built and the farm field that we're filling in last originally were the same farm field somewhere 200 years ago. At some point, this farm field split up in two parts because of two brothers who couldn't share, and because of that he thinks that now the second farm field also belongs to him because of family belongings. That's why there's nothing growing on this field, because neither of them are doing something with it, because it is not decided yet who it belongs to. Anyways, that's it. Thank you for watching. I'm happy to be back with another video. I hope to continue publishing videos more often, but I say this every time, so I don't know for how long that is going to last. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe and leave a like. And thank you to my patrons for supporting me, and then I'll see you in the next one. Enjoy the cinematics.